You guys, you don't love me anymore? Okay, Jazakallah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. So inshallah in the next half an hour, plus taxes, GST, we will be talking about winners and losers. And this is related to the a concept we have in Islam, which is called ulu al-himma. Ulu al-himma basically means to think big and aim high. So, as usual, I'm going to start with a story. Everyone loves stories. So I'm going to start with the story of a guy that you probably know. If you have seen Home Alone, raise your hand.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, of course. So do you know Kevin? Okay. So Kevin started off as a celebrity when he was 9 years old, 8 years old. He became the star of Home Alone. He became famous. He made lots of money back in the 1990s. He became famous. He had a lot of money, millions of dollars. So what has become of him? Yes.
Now he's we call it he's drug addicted and he wasted himself.
Yeah, he became a drug addict and he spent some time in jail. The latest I heard about him is he is getting back on track and he's trying to work on his life, right? So what happened basically, he had the money, he had the fame, but he didn't have a goal in life. And this is why he lost. The opposite example is someone that you know. I'm not going to tell you his name. What happened basically when he was young, about the same age, 8 years old, someone stole his bike. Harami, Sarai al-Aqrab ta'at, right? Someone stole his bike. Okay, thank you. So they stole his bike and he was crying and he was mad. And a police officer came across him and he said, okay, you lost your bike. Muhammad Ali came from a poor family and he didn't have a lot of money. So the bike for him was like a Rolls Royce to me. Something very precious, something very expensive. So the officer told him, if you caught the guy who stole the bike, if you caught him red-handed stealing the bike, what would you do to him? If it's a big guy, what are you going to do? He's going to beat you up, he's going to take the bike and leave. So he said, okay, what do you mean? What do you want me to do? He said, you should learn how to defend yourself. And he started to learn, boxing. And he became Muhammad Ali, one of the most famous people and one of the richest people probably in the world. And he became, at some point in North American history, he became the face of Islam. He was always making da'wah, he was talking about Islam all the time, and subhanAllah, every time they asked him something about his life, he would put Islam and Allah in the conversation. He made da'wah in national TV. And a lot of people accepted Islam because of Muhammad Ali, and a lot of people accepted Islam because of Malcolm X, for example. Why? Because Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, they had what we call ulu al-himma. They had a goal in life, they had a target, they had something they tried to achieve. And this is what makes them different from Kevin from Home Alone. So when you are young, you have to have a dream, you have to have something that you try to achieve. So there is this hadith, it's an authentic hadith. The Prophet ﷺ was traveling. I'm going to talk a little bit about ulu al-himma, then I'm going to give you some examples. And at the end, I will give you some examples and some requirements for someone to have ulu al-himma and to be successful in life. So the Prophet ﷺ was traveling one time and he came across this Arabi. And he did a favor to the Prophet ﷺ. Maybe he invited him to dinner, something happened. He did a favor to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, لَوْ جِئْتَنَا أَكْرَمْنَاكَ. If you come to me in Medina, I'm going to reward you. So eventually the man came to Medina and he stopped by, the Prophet's house. He came to visit the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, whatever you ask, I'm going to give it to you. Ask anything. I'm going to give it to you. So the man said, well, this is a very, mashallah, generous offer. Can I get a couple of chicken and a goat? And the Prophet ﷺ was very disappointed because, I'm telling you, you can ask anything. and I can give it to you. You know, it is like when you come across, for example, Justin Trudeau or the Queen of England, and they ask anything, I'm gonna give it to you, and you tell them, can you please? Can I need $2 because I want to buy coffee? Yeah. It's very disappointing, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, أَفَلَا كُنْتُمْ كَعَجُوزِ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. I wish like you were the old woman of Bani Israel. And the Sahaba said, what did she do? So the Prophet ﷺ said, she did a favor to Musa alayhi salam. It's a long story, but I'm giving you the short version. And eventually after she did a favor to Musa alayhi salam said, ask me anything, I'm going to give it to you. She said, I would like to be with you in Al-Firdaus Al-A'la in Jannah. Up there with you in Jannah. Not in the basement, up in Jannah with you. She didn't ask about goats, she didn't ask about chicken or a cup of coffee, nothing. She said, I want to be with you in the highest place in Jannah. So you need to think big and aim high. And the Prophet ﷺ said, even when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if you are not the best Muslim out there, when you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you ask Him for Jannah, always aim high. Why? They say, I assume all of you go to school, so if you study hard to get straight A's, say for example here is straight A, and you study hard, you do your best, if you miss, then you're going to land somewhere close to the top, right? But if you study to get an F, and you miss, where are you going? You're going down a big time. Same thing, when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask for the highest place in Jannah, Firdaus al-A'la. But if you miss, you're going to land somewhere close to Al-Firdaus al-A'la, but not far off. But if your aim is to go to the basement of Jannah and you miss, where are you going? Barbecue, right? So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to think big and aim high. Even if you are making dua to Allah, say, Allah, give me the best. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. So now, this is number one. Think big and aim high and ask big. Because you're asking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is number one. Number two, what is your goal in life? So, we should do like short-term goals and long-term goals. And say for example, when I was in college, I had a roommate, an American guy, and he used to type English very fast. And my typing skills were not that good. So, in other words, I used to type one finger on the keyboard. So my, maximum speed was about 5-6 words per minute. That is like terrible. So one day he made fun of me, and he said, "MashaAllah, you're typing, you're like, I'm, this dazzling speed." He was making fun of me basically. So I said, "I will show you. I will show you." So within a year, alhamdulillah, I became, a very speedy typist, and not only in English, but I type in Arabic as well. So I mastered Arabic typing and English typing. So now I was with him. I did better than him, right? So I wouldn't allow a guy to feel or to think that they are better than me. Why? Am I missing an arm, a leg? I have eyes. If someone is able to do something, this should be your, this is the motto you have in life. Let me finish just the sentence. If another human being like you is able to do something, there is no reason you shouldn't be able to do it. Yes, bro.
Wait, where is he right now?
He's in the U.S.
Doing what?
He's a farmer. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a farmer too. I'm a farmer. There's nothing wrong. But the point is, well, it was a good thing that I had him in life because he motivated me to learn how to type fast in English and Arabic. If I didn't have him in his life, and if he didn't make fun of me, I wouldn't learn typing. So it was actually a good thing that he challenged me. Can we get the questions at the end? Okay.
So you're saying that, like, we should, so like bullying is like a good thing, but it's technically hidden because it's telling somebody to, like if they're getting mad at something that they're not really good at. Then
Well, he didn't bully me. He was just being sarcastic. And the good thing is I turned this energy into a positive force to learn something. He didn't kill my morale. I didn't go crazy because he said it. What I had in mind at the time, why is he saying this? You know what? I'm going to show him that I can do it. And I can actually do better than you. So the short-term goals, for example, if your tajweed is in the basement, your qira'atul Quran in the basement, or your typing skills are in the basement, right? There is always a goal you can set because, there's always something to learn. The worst thing that you can do in life as a human being is you feel like you are at the top, everyone is down there, and there is nothing else I can learn. This is the worst that can happen to you. There is always something you can learn. So set a goal for yourself, like inshallah in the next 3 months, I will learn how to do wudu properly, and I will learn how to pray properly. Because many of us, we still make mistakes in wudu and salah. And I gave examples the first lecture I gave here. So set goals for yourself, and believe me, maybe this is something you will realize later in your life. If you are today, what you were 5 years ago, you basically wasted 5 years of your life. If you didn't improve in any way, if you are not a better you, if you didn't learn something new, you wasted 5 years of life. This is basically like one of you who stays in grade 3 for 5 years. What do you call this person? A failure, right? The same thing in the school of life. If you don't learn something new, if you don't improve, then you basically wasted 5 or 3 years of your life. Learn something new all the time. Everyone should have a passion in life. The Prophet ﷺ's passion, keep this in mind. This is very important. You should have a passion in life, something you try to achieve, a contribution, a legacy that you like to leave behind. Because believe me, there are people who lived and died 100 years ago, 150 years ago. No one remembers their name. No one knows anything about them. No one knows that they actually existed. Why? Because they didn't leave a legacy. But if you read about someone like Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, we know that they existed and they left a legacy because of all the knowledge they left. This is just one example. I'm giving you one example. 700 million Muslims in this world, they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala following the example of Imam Abu Hanifa, for example. 700 million Muslims. He left a great legacy. And so on and so forth. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu left a legacy. Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman and Ali. Every Sahabi, the great ones, they left legacy. What is your legacy? Oh, my legacy, I spent 5 hours on Facebook. Who cares?
1,000.
My legacy, I was able to finish all the levels of Candy Crush. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? This is not a legacy. This is not a legacy. You're just basically wasting your life. You have to leave a legacy. Okay, so the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ was da'wah. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Inviting people to Islam. Giving people a good picture of Islam. So for example, when the Prophet ﷺ was making hijrah from Mecca to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, he knew that the people of Mecca were after him. They offered 100 camels and they were trying to kill him. But still the Prophet ﷺ, in many narrations, he stopped on the way to make da'wah to people and they actually accepted Islam. Buraidat al-Aslami, it's a whole tribe. The Prophet ﷺ invited them to Islam and they accepted Islam. He came across 2 thieves, Itnil Haramiya, Lissain, 2 thieves. He made da'wah to them and they accepted Islam on the spot. He was always making da'wah to people. The last words that came out of the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ before he passed away were da'wah related. Do you remember what were some of the last words that came out of his mouth before he died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Quran.
Salah.
What? Who's he pointing at me? I said Quran.
He said, as-salat. This is one of the last things that he said. As-salatu, as-salatu wa ma malakat. He said, make salah. Don't miss salah. Right? Because salah is so important. Till the last breath of his life, he's asking us to pray. You have no excuse for not praying. If you don't have money, you don't have to give zakat. If someone is sick or a sister is pregnant, they don't have to fast in Ramadan. If someone does not have the physical or the financial ability, they don't need to go for Hajj. But say for example, if someone is sick, can they pray? Yes. If someone broke their arm or leg, can they still pray? If someone doesn't have money, can they pray? If a sister is pregnant, can she pray? If someone is at the hospital and they're going through a surgery, can they pray? Yes, they can. They can. Yes. Even if they can't stand up, they can pray in any way they can. Even by moving their head up and down. They can pray to the best of their ability. But anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ's legacy was making da'wah to people, inviting them to Islam. The Sahaba did the same thing. If you are from Misr, from Egypt, if you are from North Africa, Maghrib, Aljazair, if you are from Spain, if you are from Turkey, if you are from India, Pakistan, if you are from Somalia, if you're in Indonesia, your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents accepted Islam because the Sahaba delivered the message to them. We're talking about thousands of miles. The Sahaba traveled to deliver Islam. Some of them, they sacrificed their money, their lives, their time, just to deliver Islam to people. And some of us, sometimes, we don't honor these sacrifices by not, for example, praying, right? Now imagine if Amr ibn al-As, for example, and the great Sahaba, they delivered Islam to Egypt, right? And people accepted Islam. It took Egypt about 300 years to be a predominantly Muslim country. Because the Sahaba, they didn't force anyone to accept Islam. So people slowly but surely accepted Islam. So every time I pray now, or I fast, the Sahaba like Amr ibn al-As and the other Sahaba who brought Islam to Egypt, they will be getting a similar reward to my salah and fasting, a similar reward to my fathers and grandfathers fasting and salah, because they are the ones who delivered Islam to us. If you teach your children in the future to read Fatiha and pray, you will be getting the reward, your parents will be getting the reward, their great parents will be getting the reward, all the way to the Sahaba. Now when you don't pray, or you don't fast, oh, I can't pray because I'm playing video games, it's time to play, not time to pray, right? If this is how you think, not only you are depriving yourself of the reward, you're not getting any reward, but the reward that the Sahaba would have received through you is not going there, and this is not fair, right? But anyway, this is a side note. The ulama, like the great ulama, some of them, they used to travel thousands of miles just to get one ruling and so on and so forth. And they traveled from like Medina to Iraq or Egypt, and they traveled distances like thousands of miles to get one ruling. And now, mashallah, if you have Android, if you have iOS, you can download encyclopedias and fiqh and stuff. Until this day, some of us still make mistakes in the basics of Islam. Why? Because we don't appreciate this knowledge. I don't mean put anyone down. I'm not talking about everyone here. I'm saying some of us, I don't want you to feel bad or anything. One brother, he came to me one time and he said, every time he's praying by himself, he goes to work and he's praying. Yeah, someone is talking in the back. So he's praying Dhuhr by himself at work, and in the second rak'ah, you're supposed to sit down for tashahhud in the second rak'ah. He wouldn't sit for tashahhud, he would stand up by mistake. So what he did basically, and this is what he did all the time, salam, salam, and he starts all over again. And he would make the same mistake again, and he would start all over again. And I said, no, the Prophet ﷺ did the same thing. He was praying Asr, and he made salam after 2 rak'ahs. And the Sahaba reminded him, he stood up, he said, okay, he stood up, he prayed another 2, and he made sajda sahwa at the end. Maybe we can talk about sajda sahwa in one of the halaqas about salah and your relationship with Allah. If you know about Islam, you know the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, your life becomes easy. But if you don't know, your life will become very difficult. I'm going to give you an example now of one of the greatest stories that I heard from Islamic tradition. And when I heard this story many years ago, this story changed my life. So this is the story of a person in Islamic history that you probably have never heard of. Yes. It's so famous that most Muslims have not heard of, right? Anyway, the story is of Muhammad ibn Abi Amr. Unless you heard the story from me, I gave a khutbah here about 5 years ago, and I mentioned the story, but I assume that not every one of you was here. Yeah, some of you were not alive back then. But anyway, so the story goes something like this. So please, if you fall asleep in the talks, if you play with your cell phone, and if you're not off in the talk, you know, it is as if the khatib, the speaker, is releasing the sleep gas and, you know, putting you to sleep. Pay attention, inshallah, for just a few minutes. This story is going to change your life, right? So, the story of Muhammad ibn Abi Amr. Muhammad ibn Abi Amr basically was living in Al-Andalus in Spain about 1300 years ago, right? So Muhammad ibn Abi Amr basically was Hammar. Hammar means he had a donkey and he used to carry stuff. Someone is, brother, sorry, you want to come and give the talk?
Yes,
Okay.
he would love to.
Okay, so,
He makes you a friend.
Jazakallah. So, Muhammad ibn Abi Amr basically was Hammar. He would carry stuff on the back of his donkey. It's a menial job in Spain, Al-Andalus, under the rule of Muslims 1300 years ago. So one night, he had a couple of friends, so they had a nice dinner, kushari or mahshi, whatever. So they had a nice meal, hawashi. Okay, thank you. So had a nice meal, وضربوا شاي أو سحلب أي حاجة ينسون وناموا على ظهرهم كده. They lied backs and they started to look at the moon and the stars. And Muhammad ibn Abi Amr told his 2 friends, and he said, do you guys have a goal in life? Is there anything that you try to achieve in life? Do you have a goal in life? So one of them said, yes, I'm suffering in this job because I have 1 donkey. You know, and my goal in life is to have 5 donkeys. To have 5 donkeys. This is the, you know, the highest he can go. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amr, brother, sorry. This is not nice, man. Wallahi, it's very disrespectful. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amr, so Muhammad ibn Abi Amr said to the other guy, okay, you know, he's asking for 5 donkeys. What is your goal in life? He said, 5 donkeys, what is this, man? This is like so low. My goal in life is to have 10 donkeys. So instead of making $50 a day, I'm going to make $100. I'm going to live like a king, live a beautiful life. Okay.
$100.
This is what he thought. And they said, you, Muhammad ibn Abi Amr, what is your goal in life? He said, my goal in life, ulu al-himma, is to become the Khalifa, the ruler of all of Al-Andalus, to be the ruler of all of this land, the Muslim Khilafah in Al-Andalus. Of course they said, Subhanallah, what's wrong with you? It seems that the kushari, something is wrong with the kushari, or they put too much or you know, basal in there and you lost your mind. First of all, you're not from Bani Umayyah. You're not from the ruling dynasty. Nothing. And number 2, look at your job, man. It's a terrible job. Hammar with a donkey. You're not like a doctor, you're not an engineer, you're not, a realtor, you're not Uber driver, nothing, right? You're nothing, man. You have no future. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir said, the brother who was talking, Muhammad ibn Abi Amir said, let's assume hypothetically that I become the Khalifa of all the land. What do you want me to give you? So the first one said, you become the Khalifa. It's impossible. Mustahil. Rabi' al-Mustahil. It will never happen. But let's assume hypothetically that you become the Khalifa. I need 100,000 dinars, golden pieces, and I need a house in Mississauga with a very nice backyard and a small lake. So you're talking about $3 million and the golden dinars. Is it okay? Alhamdulillah, ma fish mushkila. The second one, what do you want to get from me if I ever become Khalifa? So the second one, you become the Khalifa? It's impossible. It will never happen. If you ever become Khalifa, حطيني على حمار وابعدني في الشارع وابعت العيال يرموا علي طماطم معفنه وبيض ممشش ويقولوا حمار على حمار. ماشي الترجمه الاردو عشان كل. He said, if you ever become Khalifa, it will never happen, but if you ever become Khalifa, put me on the back of a donkey, backwards, and send the kids after me to throw rotten eggs and tomatoes at me and say, Himarun ala himar. A donkey on the back of a donkey. Okay. First thing in the morning, you see the challenge? You don't know how to type? You type 5 words per minute? Same thing happened. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir, first thing in the morning, he sold his only donkey. And he joined the police force. He became an RCMP. And for the next 25 years, Muhammad ibn Abi Amir was always promoted because he was a very dedicated police officer. Promoted. After 25 years, Muhammad ibn Abi Amir became the chief of the police in the entire Andalusia. And he became the commander-in-chief of the Muslim army in Al-Andalus. So he became the chief of the police, and he became the commander-in-chief of the army. And he is now the most powerful man in all of the land. Same year, the Khalifa al-Musta'sim passed away. Al-Khalifa al-Musta'sim from Bani Umayyah passed away. His oldest son, Hisham, was only 10 years old. And Hisham, basically what he did the whole day, he was on Facebook, he was playing video games, basketball, that's it. No matter how hard they trained him for Khilafah to become the ruler, he couldn't do it. Because his mind was somewhere else. So the mother of Hisham said, if I bring the uncle of the kid to run the Khilafah, to become the ruler, he's going to take over, maybe he's going to throw, my kid in jail or something, he's going to take over. No, I want someone from outside Bani Umayyah to assume the Khilafah, to become the, like our wali, like guardian over Khilafah, to run Khilafah on behalf of my son until my son becomes, mature enough so he can take care of the Khilafah. So over the next 5 years, Hisham never matured. He was always on Facebook, taking selfies, playing video games, good for nothing. Gambling, running around, he was good for nothing. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir, who is now the acting Khalifa, he said, if this guy becomes Khalifa, the people of Al-Andalus, the indigenous people of Al-Andalus are going to kick us out, and this is not going to work. So he declared himself Khalifa. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir, after 30 years, he became Khalifa, the ruler of all of Al-Andalus. And they say, subhanAllah, under Muhammad ibn Abi Amir, he started what they call Al-Amiri dynasty in Al-Andalus. They say, unanimously, all the historians agree that Muhammad ibn Abi Amir became the strongest, the most powerful Khalifa in the history of Al-Andalus. It expanded so much, and people were accepting Islam in the thousands, because his rule was so powerful and people felt safe, and they saw the izzah and the dignity of Islam, you don't have to do da'wah. Once they see you at the top, they see you powerful and successful, they look up to you. If you are a loser, no one will care about you. And this is why people were looking up to Muhammad Ali, they were looking up to famous people, if they speak about Islam in the media, because these are successful people. They are the ambassadors of Islam, but if you are a loser, they say if there was something good about Islam, they would have become good people. So now, Muhammad ibn Abi Amir remembered who? He remembered his two old friends. He said, I'm going to invite them to the palace. Now this is the last chapter in the story. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir sent his guards to the market to bring his two old friends, Tom and Jerry, his two old friends. So they found them in the market. Each one of them still had one donkey. After 30 years, one donkey. Yes, it is good to have a goal, but what is the point if you don't work hard to achieve your goal? Nothing, right? You have to start immediately. And this is the problem. This is the problem. Sometimes we have New Year resolution. Inshallah, in 2018, I'm going to lose 25 pounds. Nothing happened. Because they always say, next week, this next week never comes. Right? So you need to work on it. Right? And you have to start immediately. This, what they call procrastination, delaying, doesn't work. So there's no such thing. زي ما بيقول مطرب الأجيال والفنان العظيم الكبير شعبان عبد الرحيم من أول يناير هبطل السجاير وأكون إنسان جديد وأشيل حديد. Why أول يناير? That means another year. You have to start right away. Don't say I'm going to do it after a year. Start today, not tomorrow. Right? So anyway, he brought them to the palace. So they both came. Hey, how are you doing? And ازيك عامل ايه كويس? Do you guys remember me? Yeah, انت صاحبنا. You are our old friend. We remember you, Muhammad ibn Abi Amir. So he said, okay, do you guys remember what you asked of me 30 years ago? First one, what did you ask of me 30 years ago? So the first one said, MashaAllah. When you told me, I said you have a great potential in life, you're a genius. This is what he said. We call them munafiqun. They exist in every society at all times. They always exist. He said, okay, whatever. What did he ask of me 30 years ago? He said, you know, the 100 golden dinars, the house in Mississauga, the lake and the backyard and everything. Okay, bye-bye. The second one, he said, what did you ask of me? The guy who said, put me on the back of the donkey. And what did you ask of me 30 years ago? He said, I don't remember. Who are you? What? You just said 2 minutes ago that I'm your old friend. You're too young for amnesia. Right? No, tell me. He said, oh man, I'm late for dinner. The kushari is getting cold. If I'm late, my wife is going to shoot me. I have to go. I would like to stay. Can't. Bye-bye. He said, wallahi, if you don't tell me, I'm going to fix you up New York style. What is it? Shobra style, sorry. Okay, so he said, khalas, I'm going to tell you. I said, if you ever become Khalifa, put me on the back of a donkey and send the kids after me to throw tomatoes with bid at me and say, Himarun ala himar. And this translates to donkey on the back of a donkey. So Muhammad ibn Abi Amir said, yes. Wallahi, this is exactly what I will do to you. حتى تعلم أن الله على ما يشاء قدير. Because when you were making fun 30 years ago, you were not making fun of me, you were making fun of Allah. You were saying that Allah cannot make you Khalifa. Allah would not be able to make you Khalifa. Or Allah would not be able to make you like type 60, 70 words per minute. Can happen. No. Allahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah is able to do everything. If you put your trust in Allah and you work hard, you should be able to achieve it. I don't have to tell you my story again with learning English, and I said this 2 months ago. I think it's a good story. So if you'd like to learn Arabic, if you'd like to learn typing, if you'd like to learn coding, anything, put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have a good intention, and if you work hard, you will be able to achieve it. There's nothing that can stop you from doing it. Another example, do we have someone here from India, Pakistan? MashaAllah. Jazakallah. So this is the story. This is the story of a good friend of mine. A good friend of mine. His name is In'am Bukhari. Maybe you didn't hear the name before, but you can Google him. And if you read the biography of this brother, the autobiography of this brother, it's called Chasing Good. Chasing Good. His book will literally change your life. Because your life is easy. Sometimes we take things for granted. But this brother had a goal in life and he tried to achieve it. So many years ago, this brother came from Pakistan. He settled in Toronto. He went to U of T to study law. And right after graduation, he had this, of course, he went to Pakistan, he got married. He brought his wife. They had a little daughter, Lena. And his daughter was about 1 year old when المشكلة حصلت. He had a medical problem. He went to the hospital, and based on what is mentioned in his autobiography, his heart stopped for over a minute. So technically he was dead. Eventually, long story short, they tried to resuscitate him. He came back to life, and they told him, they told his family, he will be lucky if he lives another week. Because he couldn't function on his own. His body stopped. They had to put him on a ventilator. He couldn't breathe on his own. He couldn't move his arm or leg. He couldn't do nothing. I visited this brother about 3-4 years ago. When I visited him in his house and he told us this story, I took like a group of the youth from our community, about like 15, 20 people your age, to go and sit with him so he can give them motivation in life. When I sat with this brother In'am, sorry brother, sorry. So when I sat with this brother, he couldn't even open his eyes. They had to tape his eyes, his eyelashes, to keep them open. He couldn't function on his own. He couldn't breathe on his own. They had a tube stuck to his neck. He couldn't breathe. They made a hole in his neck. They put it inside. And for the first 3 or 4 years after the surgery, he couldn't even talk because the tube was there and this noise, he couldn't speak. So he had to train himself for so many years to be able to speak while he was breathing from the tube. He said it was very frustrating to him. He loved to read. You know, sometimes he would be in his room. His wife was busy with their daughter, or she's cooking, taking care of something. She had to work at some point. He would read a page, and after he read the page, he couldn't turn the page. And he would sit like this for 2 hours, crying, waiting for his wife to come and flip the page for him. He couldn't turn the page. 2 hours, right? It was very difficult for him. So eventually, he said, you know, what is my legacy? I have to leave a legacy. I came, I lived on a wheelchair and I died. Is this what my life is all about? This can't be. He went back to school. He went back to U of T. He got his degree. He got a master's degree in law. And he started a law firm in Niagara Falls, precisely in St. Catharines. It's called Bukhari Law. One of the most successful law firms in Canada. He had so many lawyers working for him. And do you know the reason why Muslims are able to have their own graveyards in Canada? Is partly because of this guy. He fought for 2 years in courts so Muslims would be able to have their own graveyards. He was donating money to the masajid. He was volunteering in masajid. He was on a wheelchair. He couldn't open his eyes on his own. Nothing. But he was very active, donating money. You know, I told his family, you know, we need some money. We need to start a scholarship because there are some amazing students in the community but they need some financial assistance. So his family, alhamdulillah, they donated, they gave us some money. Brother In'am Bukhari passed away last year. They told him, when he had this incident, they told him, you will be lucky if you live another week. He lived for 30 years and he became successful. He left a legacy. We are able to have our own graveyards because of him. And he fought for masajid, he donated to masajid, he volunteered in the community, and mashallah became very successful. Although he had a disability, he was physically challenged, but he had a goal. There's something he tried to achieve. Is there anyone here from Libya? Bahi. Bahi Jik Shahi. You probably heard of Al-Qira'at al-Quran, Imam Qalun from Libya. His qira'ah is very popular in Libya. And if you pray behind an Imam, Muftah al-Sultani, or one of the big qurra from Libya, and he says, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ فِي الصَّلَاةِ Qalun. This is the style of qira'ah, like Hafs. Sheikh Abdul Aziz was reciting the qira'at Hafs in Libya. They have a slightly different style which is called Warsh. The meaning is always the same, but sometimes the style is different. The master of Qalun qira'ah, like Hafs, in qira'at Hafs, the master of qira'at Qalun, the qira'ah is named after him. Thousands of people received their professional certificate of Qari from Imam Qalun. He would give people ijazah, the entire Quran in qira'at Qalun, and he will give them the stamp that they are professional Qari. And you know what? 99% of people don't know that he was deaf. Imam Qalun was deaf. He couldn't hear anything. But by looking at people's lips, he was able to tell if you were reciting correctly or you are making a mistake. And he would give ijazah, thousands of them. The master of Qira'at Qalun was deaf. Right? This is just like telling you that the captain of Barcelona or Real Madrid is on a wheelchair. Because this is what it is about. If you can't read, how can you give ijazah to someone? They say, well, Beethoven couldn't hear at the end of his life. We're not talking about giving ijazah, professional ijazah to people, composing music and so on and so on. This is a totally different thing. But he was physically challenged, and he was able to do it. So now, what is your excuse for not achieving your goal? What is your excuse? You're not missing anything. The only thing that you don't have, if you're not able to achieve your goal, is you don't have the determination, you don't set a goal for yourself, and you don't achieve it. I'm going to tell you the root of the problem is, and I'm going to conclude in 5 minutes inshallah. If I go to any school from JK to grade 8 or after, if I go to any school, Muslim school or public school, and I ask them, what would you like to be when you grow older? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be an engineer. I want to be something. Every single one of them, Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, poor families, rich families, everyone say exactly the same thing. They would like to become teachers and doctors and engineers and realtors. Then how come, if everyone would like to have a good job and have a good family, when you ask them when they are young, how come after 20 years, when you really look at what has become of them, half of them are in jail, they ended up doing drugs, they became thieves, they ended up being shot by the gang, something terrible happened to what went wrong? Everyone started off, you see, when we come out of the wombs of our mothers, it is like a race to make it to the end. Everyone has the same potential in life. Allah gave you ears, He gave you eyes, He gave you intellect. You go to school. We start off at the same line. But not everyone will make it to the finish line. Why? Because of your determination. Uluwul himma. Do you have a goal in life or not? What is your goal in life? So the last thing I would like to say, for you to achieve your goal in life and to become successful, because talk is cheap. Everyone can talk, right? If you would like to achieve anything in life, you have to have two things. Number one, you have to have the desire to do something. And number two, you have to have the ability to do it. So number one, the desire. Many of us who come from Masr, we come from India, Pakistan, Libya, you know, when you go to school, what would you like to become? Your dad will tell you, you know, تعال حبيبي, come. Do you have a name? Hamza. Your dad will tell you, Hamza, you know I love you. You are my favorite kid. And your dad will say to all your brothers and sisters, you are my favorite kid. I want you to become a doctor like your uncle. If you don't become a doctor, you are not my son. Right? Thank you.
Then you get the soul.
On the other hand, your mom will call Hamza. Hamza, come here. Come. You know I love you Hamza. I love you. You are my favorite kid. وهي بتقول نفس الحاجة لكل إخواتك التانيين. I want you to become an engineer like your cousin. If you don't become an engineer, لن تبني ولا عرفك, zero inheritance. ميراث محروم. Get out. This is what happens most of the time. But Hamza, he doesn't want to be a doctor or an engineer. He wants to become something else. He wants to become a teacher. He wants to become a nasheed artist. He would like to become, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, he would like to become an imam. Very difficult life, right? But anyway, he has the ability to become a doctor or engineer because he is good at math and science. He's a brilliant guy. He has the ability, right? Yes or no? Does he have the desire?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to become a doctor or engineer. If they force him, believe me, he will fail. I've seen so many cases. What if he has the desire but no ability? Like say for example, if I would like to become a basketball player. This is something I wanted to be when I was young. As you can see, لا سحر ولا شعوذة. I'm a short guy. I wanted to become a basketball player. I couldn't do it. So I became a soccer player. Even Maradona will be jealous. So I have the ability and the desire. And subhanallah, wallahi, this is amazing. I'm going to leave you with this. If you read about setting goals and if you read about even public speaking, any field, how to win over people's hearts and how to have a good personality. Wallahi, when I read these books by non-Muslims, every time I read an article or an item in their book, it is there in the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said the exact same thing 1500 years ago, right? So, the ability and desire. Look at this hadith in An-Nasa'i, it's an authentic hadith. جاء العباس إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Al-Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. He came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. He came, he said, Ya Rasulullah, amirni. Ya Rasulullah, I want to become an amir, a governor. I would like to become like the mayor of Toronto. Make me a mayor. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya amma innaka da'if. His uncle is asking to become a governor. So evidently he had the desire. What is the proof? He came asking to become amir. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya amma innaka da'if. You have the desire, but you don't have the ability to do it. And it will be a source of shame for you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. You can't do it. You have the desire, but you don't have the ability. And the Prophet ﷺ refused to make him amir. His uncle. This is like the father of his, the brother of his father. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, you can't. You have the desire, but you don't have the ability. So the Prophet ﷺ knew about it. When the Prophet ﷺ chose someone for something, he chose someone who could do it. Because the Prophet ﷺ believed in specialization. When it was time for adhan, he didn't call Abu Bakr or Umar to do adhan. He called who? Bilal, because he had a beautiful voice. He had the ability to do it. Right? The last thing, oh my goodness, I've been saying this for the last half an hour. The last thing. Anyway, half a minute. Half a minute. When you look for a job in the future, when you choose a school to go to for your major, there are certain things to look for, the ability, the desire. Look for something that you love, something that you can make a contribution in, and something that is needed. Something that is needed in the market out there, right? And right now, I'll be honest with you, I know some of you will hate me. We have enough teachers in the community. We have enough doctors in the community. We have enough realtors in the community, right?
Okay, realtor.
Tell that to my parents.
Yeah, like the thing is, I go to clinics when I drive by, and there's so many, alhamdulillah, we have so many Muslim doctors in town. Realtors, same thing. If you when you drive by, you see the signs in front of houses for sale, it's always Muhammad Ibrahim, Ukash al-Sayyid, Hassan Khalil, right? And this is like an unwritten sunnah in the GTA to be a Muslim realtor. Everyone is a Muslim realtor. It's either Muslim or Chinese. There is nothing wrong, but we need some progressive jobs. We need some progressive jobs. So all the realtors in town are either Muslim or Chinese. And I remember one time I came across a Chinese realtor and I said, Ni hao. And he said, Alhamdulillah. Turned out the Chinese guy was Muslim too. Anyway, we have enough teachers, we have enough doctors, we have enough realtors. What do we need? We need people in the media. We need journalists. We need people in Ottawa to represent us in the parliament. Wallahi, it's my hope, it's my dream, before I die, and I don't expect to live another 40 years, my hope and dream to see one of you, the next Prime Minister of Canada. There is nothing wrong. We need a voice in Ottawa. Our voices are not heard because we don't have someone to speak for us. Yeah, but we need people in the media, we need people in politics, we need hockey players, we need basketball players. Wallahi, 1 minute from Muhammad Ali in the media, I'm talking about not the, if I compare 1,000 khutbahs that I give in the masjid compared to 1 minute that Muhammad Ali spoke in the media speaking about Islam and da'wah, like, Mr. Ali, why you are so successful and people love you? Brother, it's because of Allah. I do everything because of Allah. Allah give me the power. The punches. You can't hit what you can't see. It's because of Allah give me the power. Thousands of people accepted Islam because of him. And if I give like thousands of hours in the masjid about Islam, this brother has done, more for Islam than I ever can do. A thousand imams can do. Because he was famous and he was working for Islam. This is what we need. We need people in the media, we need people in politics, we need people in business, and we need people in sports. This is what we need in the future. We need progressive jobs. And you guys are the future of Islam. So in 10 years, 20 years, I'm not going to be here. The Imam is not going to be here. The President is not going to be here. You are, when I look at you, I see the next Imam. I see the next President of the community. I see the next Mayor. I see the next Prime Minister. I see the next news host. This is what we need for the future. If the Muslim community is going to have success in the future, is going to have weight in the future, it's because of you. So please look into progressive jobs. Enough of the traditional jobs. If you'd like to be successful, and if you'd like to give a good image of Islam, because again, if you are successful, people will look up to you. If you are down there, you are not successful, no one will care about you. Khalas, we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Jazakallah khair. Yes, brother?
Well, there typically is